you got any time to review that. If you have not yet done that, not a problem. So take some time tomorrow, and any of starting from this Monday to upcoming Friday, we'll start review it, because next weekend I'm planning to take the machine learning part, because I thought of starting it tomorrow, because a few of you still want to review it, right? A few of you requested to review both Python and R. You need some time, right? Tomorrow we will we'll take a break, and next weekend we'll start the machine learning part. But make sure that you are none of you are missing that session. It's a very important topic. Okay, today we'll start with the package called dplyr. Dplyr is also one of the important packages that are available in R. Okay, see, before I dive in here, I thought of covering the for loop and this one, while loop and all. Let me just give me a second here. I'll just quickly run through that. Sorry, I hope you are able to hear me, right? And you are able to hear me, and you are able to see my screen also, right? Let me just run this one. Okay. The for 1 second, let me just go here. Yeah, in the first session itself, I covered, right? The for loop, and see, for loop is like this, okay? But it is same as like other programming language. Only in Python, to specify the start of your block of code, right? The where you are going to specify the block of code, right? So for that you need to specify colon. Okay, but we have to make sure that in Python you need to give a tab, right? For each block of code you need to specify the tab, so that by the compiler can understand which set of instructions are related to the block of code. Okay, and right, so that's how. But in R it is pretty simple. You don't have to give a tab in the block of code. All you need to do is specify the block of code with your curly braces. Start with the open curly brace, end with the curly brace. Okay, so that you can see here a for loop. Inside the for loop I put if condition, and again the control. You see, this is the block of the code, right? The block of code, or the body of the if condition, right? That is mentioned inside the curly braces. The entire if else part is included as included inside this for curly brace, right? So that is how. So for even for else, right? You have open curly brace, and to end the block of the code you need to specify the curly brace. That is how it works. And the if and for loop is very simple. Okay, you don't have to spend a separate session for that. What we will do is we will continue with this one. Okay, this data set. Okay, before I jump into the dplyr thing, dplyr and data.table, we'll take a quick look at this simple assignment. So this is the data set. We have two data sets, score1.csv and score2.csv, and to check in this data set any duplicated records, or any duplicated, you have something like any duplicated built-in function that is available. So this one will give you kind of the number of the record which got duplicated. So here the row 21 or any duplicated. 1 second, score 1, right? This is the one. So in the case of score 1, It says, yeah, first row 21. One second, let me just. So we can use view also. View score 1. And okay, so any duplicated. Yeah, this is not considered as 21, right? 21 records are duplicated. For example, you have 44 here, and one second, do you have any other 44 here? 58 is there, 59, 39, 68, 56, 34. Yeah, 54 is there and 54 is there here, right? Likewise, duplicate values. How many duplicate values are there? It shows you if you go through step by step, and also you know how to query the specific column. See, look here in this score 1 data set, we have student ID, English, Math 1, Science 1, overall percentage 1. Right, so don't think that it's very academic. We have some other use cases. I'll show you with the real-time data, so that you will be able to understand. Supposing I want to check a specific column, we have any duplicated values are there. Actually, this is not logical, right? In this case, in the English 1 column, do we have any duplicates? Right? Because different students, right, they would have scored the similar mark. This is not a unique ID. Mark is not a unique ID, right? Same mark can be obtained by other students also. But just for you to understand, is there any way if I can find out duplicate records that are present in my column, which it should not have any duplicates? For that purpose, I showed you this one. This is at the column level to find out the duplicate record. Look here. In this case, 68, 48 and 67. 68, 48, these three values are duplicated here. And you can also go and manually verify it here. Okay, in the English you can find 68, 48, 67. For example, if you want to see that, right, duplicate, how will you subset the data here? Copy and paste. $English is equivalent to 68. Score 1, correct, right? Score 1, score 1 is equivalent to 68. English 1, right? So English 1, 68. With 0 columns and yeah. So let me do one thing. English 1 and 48. Okay, what we will do is we will do one thing. View score 1. See, in the case of English 1, right, 68 should not be, 68 is there once, and yeah, another 68 is there, right, another 68, so that is the duplicate here. And 48 also the same thing. In this case, 48 is there once, and again we have 48 is there. So these are the duplicate. Actually, it is meaningless to check duplicate marks, right? Duplicate employee ID, we can see it in our customer ID. Let's say I'm querying a master data set. In that, I don't want to have any duplicate records, right? So duplicate customer ID should not be there in the master table. So in that case, you can check it like this. Column wise also you can check it out. Sorry, here the problem is I typed it 2 times. Score 1, score 1, right? That is the problem. I made a big silly mistake here. See, you need to use comma in OR. Okay, so look here. So this is how we can check duplicate records, right? So equal to, so here I put the data frame name 2 times. Okay, that is the mistake I did it. So even in the case of 68, you can just type 68. You will find the same thing. Instead of going to the data set, right? Actually, you cannot use view. You can use it, but it consumes too much of memory resources, especially when you work with huge volume of data. So usually, we use this one. Instead of using this, we can use dplyr. We'll show you how to use dplyr. So here I made a mistake, right? I typed it 2 times. Score data frame name, dollar data frame name, again a dollar, right? But in dplyr, like the typical query is how we write it. Select column name, English 1, comma, column 2, science or math 1, comma, science 1. That's all. You can specify the thing. It's very simple. Those of you are, those of you are used to perform data analysis with SQL query, that will be easiest thing. Okay, so now using duplicated function, we can find out column level duplicate values, and then any duplicated at the high level. Okay, in this data set overall, how many number of duplicates are there? Fine. So the next one is dimension. Dimension function will give you the number of rows and number of columns. We have 21 rows and 5 columns are there. And finally, summary function. So this is the one by default we'll be using it to check what is the equivalent command in Python. Describe, right? So describe, we use describe function in Python, right? So using describe, we can get this kind of thing, column wise the summary, 5 number summary or 6 number summary. So minimum, what is the minimum? Actually, student ID is not a quantitative variable actually, but the given data is in numeric form. Since we know the domain very well, okay, student ID is, you cannot use minimum, maximum and all, right? It doesn't make any sense. And look at the other columns, right? So maximum is 80 and 77. So with this we can understand people, students in my class, the maximum mark gained in English only, okay, and the minimum is 30, right? 30 and 38, and the English and science only they got the minimum 30 marks. So this is the 5 number summary. Fine, good. So the next one is so with this also we can find out in case of any missing values are there in the data set. See, just below this, if you find NA, right, that means this column has missing values. How many number of records has missing values in this column? We can see it in a simple this one-liner command. So we know very well head and tail. Using it, we can find out the top 6 records and bottom 6 records. We use tail function, and first element in name column. So if I want to select the first element in the student ID, right? So this is the first one. This is how we can see it, and the range of values. This is just for the sake of help you to recall how to select the specific values from the given data frame. This one will give you second column, all the rows. See, first one is row comma column. Here I did not specify any number for the row. That means all the rows for the second column you display it. What is the second column? Math 1, right? So math 1, the here second column is English 1, right? 67, 52, 60, all the rows from this data set displayed. And what does it do? So first 2 records for the column 3, right? So what is the column 3? 1, 2, 3, math 1, 78, 72. So only 1, 2, third column 1, 2, 3, right? So this is the third column 2 records, 78, 72. And if you want to select randomly different rows, right, C inside the C function 1, 7, whichever row number index value, right, you want to select it, you can give it. one row index value start with 1, index value 7, row index 5 for the corresponding column name also got displayed here. And the next one is see, since student ID is cannot be a number type, because we don't want to see this one, right? So we convert this a character data as dot character. So next again you need to check whether it got converted as or if you so next one is no, I don't want to convert it as a character data by numeric as dot numeric. These are the built-in that are already available. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to merge these two data sets. So how many number of records are there in my score 1, dim score 1, dim score 2, 5, 10 records, right? So only 10 records are there, sorry, 20, 21, right? 20, 21, 41 records should be there. Let's see if we can merge it. No, 21 only, right? So these are other forms as well, left join, right? So here you need to use the proper join. So since the student IDs are not matching, right? So that could also be another reason it is not merging it. Anyhow, we have another data set. Will show you how to do the merge, right? Little later, don't worry. So these are the simple thing, you need to do it. Next what I will show you is, I will jump into, one second, yeah, this one. The next set of data is this one. So in real time, what are the bare minimum data pre-processing tasks that we do it? That is the one we will see it now. Okay. So let us do one thing. Data I don't know if this one is there. Yeah, it is there. Data mesh.csv is available. You to see the structure, all the things, right? These are the basic commands will be used. Okay, and okay, so this data editor using edit the data, right? So you can edit the data here. Supposing you are testing your script with some sample data, right? You can use edit because the number of records are very less. Here itself we can go ahead and modify the values here instead of command wise writing it, right? You can do it this way also, edit. Okay, and is any dot, are there any missing values are there? Yes, it has, this many number of cells has missing values in it. Now I want to remove the missing values related records. Okay, next what I'm going to do is any data to, right? So that is not required, and this is how we remove it. Okay, see here how to, this is to demonstrate you how to remove the records which has a missing values, right? So but here I stored the output in the data frame. So this one has non-null values in it. Okay, actually right, if you want to perform any analysis with non-null values, then you can use data2. For example, so here I'm trying to do some kind of subsetting with this one. Okay, and based on that I want to perform some kind of aggregation. In the case of aggregation, if you are missing value, it will not work. Anyhow, don't worry, we will see with some example. Okay, so these are the bare minimal thing that we do it. Imputing, this is not imputing missing values, actually type conversion as part of data. When it comes to OR, you need to OR or Python, right? So you need to convert the column names with an appropriate data type, right? Columns with appropriate data type. For example, the family is the fact or categorical variable. You remember in Python I showed you as dot type, right? So as type categorical. So here let's your data frame df, or let's data square bracket family dot as type. In Python we use it this way, right? This is how we can. So by default, family variable would have been considered as an object data type in pandas, right? But here, instead of as type, what we are doing is we are using as dot factor, because we know very well family. Let us look at this data set. Where is family column? In this family column, we can see number of members in a family, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4. Maximum 4 people are there in a family, right? Beyond that, else it's a categorical variable, and education is also a categorical variable, right? So what do you mean by categorical variable? The column which has less number of distinct values, less number of data. There are some cases, right? We cannot say less number. Maybe it will be little more compared to a data set, but the distinct values are less. For example, zip code, right? In Chennai, let's say you have 3000 zip codes are there. But if you look at the number of transactions done by your customers, right? Probably, let's 100,000, 1 lakh transactions happen. But out of that, 3000 records are less, right? So hence, zip code is considered as a categorical variable only. So we need to, explicitly specify so and so columns are categorical data type as using as dot factor. Okay. So here I am going to convert all these columns as part of data pre-processing. The interview they'll ask you, as part of data pre-processing, what are the tasks that you typically do it. So what we do is we perform data imputation, and also we do type conversion, right? Data type conversion. And for example, we have something called education column, and we have column called credit card, debit card, right? So, and securities, did the customer pledged any asset to go for a loan, right? And data online, whether they fill the application online, loan, right? So whether they obtained for a loan or not. 0 means they did not obtain for a loan. 1 means they obtained the loan in the past. Okay, so that is what it says. So in this case, data type conversion and data imputation. See, this is KNN imputation is also very popular one to perform data imputation. You remember in the case of Python, I showed you how to perform data imputation using fill function, right? So using isNull function, we were able to find out the missing values or missing the columns or rows that have missing values, and we have drop function that is available in Python pandas, using which you can drop the records which have the missing values in it. Drop any, and fill any is to perform the data imputation. But here we don't have any fill any kind of function is available. Okay, we'll have to do it manually in case of any data imputation that needs to be done. Okay, fill any is very much handy to perform any kind of even with fill any else, right? Sometimes you might find it difficult, but fill any is bit faster. It automatically goes and checks. For example, you have a column called quantity, or price column. Okay, price column, wherever missing values are there, it automatically goes and finds out those row index values, and then it, based on the condition you wrote it goes and update the prices. That way it is really good. Okay, but apart from this, we have something called KNN imputation, K nearest neighbor imputation. Okay, so you just I don't know how many of you remember this one. 1 second, somebody is calling me. Hello. See, this is the one. See, the KNN, how it works. The KNN part, what I will do is, at this moment I will skip this one, but I will give you some fair amount of idea about the KNN. Okay, the KNN works pretty simple, something like nearest neighbor. Okay, I don't know if you are aware of the nearest neighbor. Right, we have an algorithm called K nearest neighbor algorithm as part of machine learning. Anyhow, when I discuss about k-nearest neighbor, right, I will discuss about the KNN imputation also. But anyhow, I'll give you some high level idea about this one. See, what happens here is, for example, in the case of KNN imputation, right, let's say, you have a, let's say your data set like customer ID and his income and his age, and what is that, whether he is going to default or not. Okay, this is the data set. Let's say in the customer ID column you have something called A01 and his income is 50,000, 50,024, age is, right, 54, and he defaulted, right. So and sorry, he did not default, and other guy is, B 867423, his income is 43,200 and his age is 24 and he defaulted, yes. Another guy is C04, so this guy, sorry, what we will do is 13,000, we'll make it 13,000. This guy's income is 13,800 and his age is also 24. He is also defaulted. I have a new customer D0441. This customer's income is somewhere 12,900 and his age is also 24. I wanted to predict whether this guy is going to, so this guy so these guys past their payment behaviors we recorded. So this guy, for example, this 24-year-old guy, in the past he defaulted. This guy also defaulted. This guy did not default. Now a new guy, he applies for a loan, right? So what we are doing is we are going to my machine learning model has to predict whether this guy is also going to default or non-defaulter. But in this case, the number of columns are less, number of rows also less. But with this pattern itself, we can identify, right? So he is also 24. These guys are also 24. These guys, defaulted with this income in the past. Maybe this guy will also be defaulting it, right? We can make some kind of guesswork, and but if I have huge volume of data and different, payment, different combination of columns, I have to say it is a bit difficult. So what KNN imputing, it use some distance metric, like we have some Euclidean distance. We have something called Euclidean distance metric. Euclidean distance metric. So in that case, what happens, right? This to predict whether this guy is going to default or not, you need to subtract this one from each and every record's values. Okay, 1 to 9, for example, square root of 12,900 minus 500 to 4, right, and squared. Right, so plus this one 24 minus 54 square, right? Let's say this value, roughly speaking, right, let's 8,000 or let's 45,000, so 302. This is called your distance. The k nearest neighbor, it is called as distance. It's something like how many people are living in Adyar in this training program. Let's in this batch 5 people are living close to my house or living in Adyar. That means they are close to my house, right? And how many people are living far from my house? Some people are from Tambaram, some people are from Perambur and all, right? So in that case, the distance is too far. But here, okay, people are living in my area is fine. That doesn't mean they are very close to my record, right? My characteristics. maybe in Adyar, out of 5 people, 2 people ages are similar to my age. Let's say assume that 24. That guy is also age, 2 guys age also 24, right? And or 24, right? That means we are very close by. My record, my income, my age, it is all somewhat similar to other customers. It's kind of a grouping, okay? So which all customers income and age are somewhat similar to mine, okay? So for that, to find out that how will you do that, we use some kind of distance metric, like the Euclidean distance, okay? P minus Q, P1 minus Q1 squared plus P2 minus Q2 whole squared, so the square root of this one, that is the one will give you the distance. So for this guy and me, let's this is the one I applied for a loan. The distance is here, you have another column, okay? But here in the data set it will not be there. Behind the scene it will maintain this one. Let's 45302 something like that, not 450, 4530 to something like that, okay? And for this guy, the distance between this guy and me, right, somewhat like 12,001. Let's this guy 12,002. So compared to these two guys distance, right, compared to this guy's distance, these two guys distance are somewhat closer to me. This guy, right, this is my, so distance based metric. So the K-NN algorithm, it uses distance metric, different types of distance metric, Euclidean, Mahalanobis, and you have something else called it's in US, Newark one place is there, right? Manhattan distance, Manhattan distance, and Mahalanobis distance, and Euclidean distance, the one more very popular one. Most of them they use it, okay? And right. So let's say in this case, using the Euclidean distance, the algorithm finds out the distance between this user and the other users, and also we can specify. Let's say I have 4 more people with somewhat similar to this distance, right? Of these distance, which one is closer? For example, I need to specify K is equivalent to 5 or K is equivalent to 2. So 2 nearest neighbors. So who are all the nearest neighbors to me? Let's say this is me, okay? Who are all the nearest neighbors to me? 2 nearest neighbor. These guys are 2 nearest neighbor, okay? So now what happens is, with these 2 nearest neighbors, it goes and check, okay? So what is the 1 second, let me just take one more thing. This customer ID is, right, 023, and his income is also, let's 13,100. So in this case, these 3 customers are close by to me, right? They are the neighbors to me compared to this, because the distance is far with this customer ID. For this customer, right, the distance too far. But these 3 customers are somewhat closer to me, nearest neighbor to me. And of this, how many number of Ks I should use it? How many number of nearest neighbor I should use it? Let's say if I specify 2, it will use of these 3, which all records are very close by to me. These 2 it will consider, okay? It will ignore, it will drop this one. Of these 2, it goes and check. It goes by the majority voting. Oh, this guy is Y and this guy is also Y. Okay, so these 2 guys profiles are somewhat matching to me, and hence the behavior will also, the payment behavior also same as this one. This is how it works, the prediction there. But in that case, the major overhead is, it has to compute the distance for to predict one guy's payment behavior, right? It has to compute with each, it has to perform, it has to compute the distance using Euclidean distance or something else, right, for each and every record. So this one minus this one whole squared plus this one minus this one whole squared, and take the square root distance. And similarly, this one minus this one whole squared plus this one minus this one whole squared, and take the square root, you get this distance. For to predict one customer's or one instance payment behavior, it has to perform this heavy computation, especially if you have huge volume of data, right? It is a CPU intensive process. But this is how it works. See, it is logically also somewhat okay, right? The age is also somewhat matching, these two customers is also matching with me, and the income also somewhat matching with me, and hence, my behavior also will be like them. So why? Obviously, if you don't have income, let's say you have 2 or 3 credit cards, you spend money like anything, right? And how can you, if you don't have any other source of income, how can you make the payment, right? So with this, yeah, this is how we perform the CNN imputation. Okay. For example, instead of this, right, customer ID, you just think this is all product ID, right? This product ID and this product ID. But in that case, CNN imputation, the product price, right? Product price and product price somewhat similarly. Just think, this is a price. Okay, price. This price of these two products are same, and let's this one. What do you say? You have a discount. You have something called discount, right? So here you did not. Here also you give discount. Here also you have given discount. So these two records or these two products, this thing are matching. Let's you don't. Let's say you have missing value here, right? You have the missing value for the price. So what you can do is somewhat you match with this one. You can update this one. So it will be approximately somewhat similar to this price. In the case of data imputation, what is data imputation? Replace the missing value. You are not supposed to have the missing value in a data set. If you have the missing value in a data set, right, it will not work well. The algorithm, most of the algorithms, right, it requires the data to be not null values, and also if the volume of the data which you have is very less, and if you remove 50% of the data, or if a data set is reasonably good, but if you remove 50% of the data just because you are missing values, what will happen? Whatever the analysis that you do, whatever the prediction that you make, it will be biased, right? So that is the reason why what we do, we perform the data imputation. The data imputation is kind of, right, near match. Okay, this is somewhat similar to this one, this is somewhat similar to this one, maybe the price of this product will also be somewhat similar to this one, put it this way. Okay, so fine. So the same way the KNN imputation works. For that, what we do is we have a package called DMWR. There is no package called DMWR, so you need to, I don't know whether these are all very old packages. Yeah, it is available, DMWR too. You need to install. See, after you install this one, right, make sure that you don't have any missing values. I think, okay, you can find out, right, how many number of missing values are there, and then what you do is you perform the what is scale equal to true is nothing but data normalization. We'll discuss about data normalization later, or when I cover the machine learning part, right? We'll discuss in detail what are all the data scaling, feature scaling. We call it as a feature scaling. Feature is nothing but the column name. Feature scaling, feature engineering, everything we'll discuss it as part of machine learning, don't worry. So we have a function KNN input. This function is available as part of DMWR. Okay, this I installed it. Okay, here it is 2, right? So new package name is DMW. It's not like the older one. I don't know whether if this function is available, whether they changed it or I don't know. We'll check up NES interest. Yeah, so here NES interest by coercion. Error in gain inversion, not sufficient complete case for computing neighbors. Okay, so yeah, 1 second, let me just, yeah, somewhere I removed the records, right? not susceptible. Now you talk closure, key in an imputation. 1 second. Yeah, everything got converted as a factor, and here let me just check. Okay, some 1 second here. Actually, data we are not supposed to. That is also a reserved function, built-in function that is available in Python. Maybe because of that, let me just check this one, str of data. I don't know why it goes. Fine, so this is the one. Here I'm going to say data. Simply I'll just type data. Yeah, this is a head of data. Top 5 records. Okay, and here we have some missing values are there. If I do this one now, let us see. Data error in gain and imputation, not sufficient complete case for computing neighbors. Okay, so in this case, right, when you use feature scale equal to true, you are supposed to have numerical values in all the columns. Okay, str of data. It's numerical data should be there, but we have converted a factor data type. That is also the reason why it is causing this problem. What I'm going to do is, I'm going to read it once again, and then directly I'm going to do this one. And still, let us do one thing, str of data. Let me check if we have, all the columns, right? Info, rec. What we will do is, we can eliminate this column. We can exclude this column from this data set. Okay. How will you exclude this one? For example, you can data so select all the columns except this one. Okay, all the columns, all the rows except this one. Invalid argument or unary operator. In or certain commands, I forgot. You have C only, you can use it. 1 second. Let me do one thing. We will do one thing. Let me simply put C info rec. Don't store it. You just check it if this is, it is correctly selecting this one. But I wanted to exclude this one. Ideally, the -C should work. Select all the rows and all the columns, okay, and accept this one, but it is not. Otherwise, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to say data of this is one way of excluding it. Otherwise, simple way of doing this, you can assign how do you drop a column. How do you drop a column in OR? Like in the last session we discussed, right? How many of you remember that? So here I'm going to put null, null. Okay. How will you remove a column from pandas data frame? We have something called drop, right? df dot drop, inside this column equal to, you can specify the column name, it will get dropped. So now if you view the the column, right, the info rec column has gone. So now we are left with all the numeric values in this data set. So now what we will do is we will perform the scaling. The scaling will work only with the numerical values. Look here, it takes some time, that means it is doing the data imputation. Here you can see the stop icon, right? That means it is in progress. Now it got, it is done, right? So ideally, yeah, here you have NA, right? See, look NA here. So let me do str of data 3. Ideally you should have checked this one. NA age also we had NA, right? So now it performed the data imputation. It replaced the missing value with some meaningful values. Okay. And now we have we can also check any so what is that, any NA. So any NA will tell you have any nothing. For example, any NA of my data, that was our original data frame, right? Could not find function any, so capital N, capital A. True. So in my original data set, it tells us that I have some missing values, whereas after I did the imputation, data imputation, now it shows false. That means we don't have any missing values in our data set. Using KNN imputation also you can do it. Okay. So you should be knowing when should I use KNN imputation, when I cannot rely on KNN imputation. Can someone tell me, use your common sense and tell me when we can use KNN imputation, when we cannot. See, in Python we discussed about mean imputation, right? Condition based mean. If the product name is same, let's the same product we sold it in the past, but in the recently sold the same product we did not have the price value, right? The value for the price is missing. Since we already sold the same product in the past, right, we can query that data and see if the price is available for the same product which we sold it in the past. If it is there, that means, right, we can rely on that data, right? Somehow the price will, we can take the same price and we can update. But still, price is also very, sensitive column. Though the product name is same, and the price may not be same, every quarter or every month, right? Price will be keep varying it. But still, we can rely on it. We can logically justify, hey man, for the same product, we in the past we sold it for that product, for that transaction. In that transaction we could see the price for the same product, but whereas in the recent transaction we don't. So that's the reason why I took that price and updated it, right? We can take that. But some cases what will happen is, if you rely, in that case you can use KNN imputation also, right? KNN imputation also, because based on the product ID, okay, product, let's the same product ID is available in the past. The currently the same product for the same product, right? The current record or transaction we don't have the price. So product IDs are matching, especially the product ID is an integer type. If it is matching, and other properties, the shape, color of the product also same, right? That means it is same product. Using KNN imputation we can do it. In some cases it will not be helpful. When it will not be helpful? If your process is very stringent, if the management says, hey, you need to take the average of all the prices, yeah, still you can, you will have to take the average, because though we have sold the same product in the past many times, and those transaction has the prices in it, but the prices are not the same across all the months. So in that case we need to do the group by and take the average of the same product which we sold in the past, right? Average on the price of the same product which we sold it, and then take it and update. In that case, you cannot use K&N imputation. Okay, you cannot do averaging here, or you can do averaging and then you can do K&N imputation, but it is it is very expensive one. You cannot do it, so better you can do it manually in that case. Okay, or if they say no, we don't see any changes in the price every once in, let's you are doing a first quarter analysis. Within the first quarter itself, right? In this quarter we don't make change. Every once in a quarter only will make a price change, and you are doing analysis for the current quarter only. In that case, you don't have to worry about averaging and all. Simply you can go for K&N imputation. But the prerequisite for K&N, all your columns are supposed to be number data type. If you have non-numerical values, you can exclude it. You can simply say null and drop it, and or you can simply exclude it. Instead of dropping it, you can exclude it. Right, so you can exclude it or you can drop it also. Okay, and then keep only the numerical values in your data set, and you can perform the data imputation like this. Fine. Anyhow, I will explain the K&N algorithm as part of machine learning. You will be understanding it thoroughly. Okay, this is one way of performing the data. In the interview, they'll ask you what strategies that you used it in the case of performing the data imputation. You can tell them we have done manual imputation by using kind of SQL kind of queries based on some conditions. We perform the mean condition based mean imputation. We did it. In some cases we did K&N imputation because the prices were not changing. Right, as I told you, right, we are doing the analysis on the current quarter. Right, every quarter, once in a quarter only, will make a change, a price change. So in that case, you can simply go ahead with K&N imputation. Supposing you are doing right to quarter data, you have it, and in the current quarter, for a specific product, you don't have the price. What you need to do is last quarter price you need to take it. Last quarter, listen, you are in the third quarter. Okay, first two quarters price you need to take it, average it, and then third quarter for the same product you need to put it the average price. Fine. So this is one one of the task as a data scientist. You will be doing it as part of data pre-processing, type conversion. Second one is data imputation, and the next one is subsetting of the data. We don't need all the column, as I told you, exclude the column, right? Instead of excluding the column, which you see here minus C is there, exclude these columns. Subset, we have something called subset function, right? Your data frame name comma select equal to specify all the columns that you don't need it in your data set. Like this also you can do it. Okay, see, number attribute, categorical attribute. Simply you can create two different data frames. Keep all the number attribute in a separate data frame. This is another way of doing it. Okay. So we have the data the data scaling. We mentioned about scale, isn't it? So see, first one is data type conversion, second one is data imputation, and third one is subsetting the data. Right, as for a data pre-processing, you will exclude those columns are not relevant to my analysis, exclude it. And finally, what you do is with the columns, right, whichever columns that you have it currently, right, with that column you wanted to proceed with performing the data analysis. In that case, still you need to convert the existing columns rows in the you need to do data normalization and standardization using DecoStand, right? Forget about range. Okay, we use the z-score method only. Okay, standardize. So numerical attribute only you can do standardization. Remember this. Okay, like K&N imputation, all your columns are supposed to be numerical, and then what you do is you do the standardization. Even in the case of standardization, right, all your columns are supposed to be numerical. Okay, so we use z-score method in order to do the standardization. Anyhow, I will discuss this in detail as part of clustering, k-means clustering, and principal component analysis, right? So there are certain algorithms which dictates the columns, whatever you are using it in a data set, supposed to be numerical, otherwise it will not work, it will throw an error. Next kind of data pre-processing is discretization. Okay, what is discretization? InfoTheo. So we have a package called InfoTheo in, I don't know if that one is available now. It's all very old, script. Yeah, it is available. Very good. So install these packages. So wherever library is there in the script, right? You take this name of the library and go to tools and install package and type it and install it. Okay. Warning only, right? So let me just try importing. Oh, it is going on. Fine. So next I am going to do some specific column. I wanted to use discretize error in discretize. Could not find function discretize. Oh, okay. They probably okay, no, I need to import it. See, installed it, but after installation you have to import it by executing this line. Okay. Otherwise it will say the function is not available. Actually, this function discretize is available as part of InfoTheo. Data 2 is not found, so data is available, right? I am going to use data, right? Income bin is ready. Now let us go and check the income bin. See, in the income bin, instead of displaying the income as it is, it did the grouping. It divided the income column into 4 different buckets automatically. Equal frequency, right? Equal frequency. So, for example, the customer's income is between 10,000 to 20,000. Put it in one bucket. 20,000 to 30,000. Put it in another bucket. 30,000 to 40,000. Put it in another bucket. Okay. Divide the data into 4 equal parts and based on the income range. So how the income range is determined based on the frequency here. Okay. Different options are available. Or equal width also available. Equal frequency is nothing but some customer is income is 20,000, other customers, those customers are getting more frequent 20,000, put it in one bucket, something like that. Okay, so 4 bins. So bucket we are going to create it, right? So this now the numerical variable also become a categorical variable now, right? By doing so, in this column you will have 1, 2, 3, 4. Forget about NA. But why NE is coming here? I did KNN imputation, right? I did KNN imputation. After that, we did not find any false. Maybe I would not have executed it again, right? So, okay, fine. So, you just, keep that in mind. So, data discretize. Right? Okay. Income only, no? This is the one is income, right? Or inc. Oh, here it is inc only. Summary of data. This one will give me an idea about whether I have, NEA saw the right. So the reason could be, let me do one thing. I will execute it once again. Yeah, it is in data 3, right? Yeah, KNN imputation, I did it and I stored it in a, the variable called data 3. So ideally, here the discrete is supposed to be data 3, right? And I stored it in a variable called income bin. Now you can assign this income bin back to your data thing. Okay, so that's how you can do it. So what is discretization? discretization used to create a buckets, 4 different buckets. Something like, how many number of people got appraisal rating 1, put it in one bucket. How many number of people got, those people got rating 2, put it in another bucket. Rating 3, put it in another bucket, something like that, okay. So income also the same thing, we split equal frequency and equal width is available, and 2 different, and then we have something called T apply function is available. T apply or apply, different functions are available, and here what you do is data. So if you want to find out the minimum or maximum, right, on your income bin, what you can do is you can use this 1, 2, 3, 4. Each bucket you can find out the bucket wise minimum thing. Okay, here what I am going to do is I am going to say income bin. Income bin mean data inc. One, two, three, four. Minimum, maximum. Okay. So T apply, what it does is it applies the table level, right? So minimum. This is minimum. It applies on this data set. Let me do one thing. I will remove this one. You can directly find out that one also. Applies. Okay, I will tell you what T apply later. Okay. Fine. Next one is okay, now you understand, right, what kind of pre-processing type, data type conversion and data imputation. In our case we use KNN imputation, and you understood the prerequisites in order to perform KNN imputation. All the columns are supposed to be numerical, and then the next data processing I excluded those columns, or we made sure that only the relevant columns are retyped in the data set. And then what we are doing some kind of data normalization, and then we did some kind of bucketing, right, bucketing. And the next thing is like dummy variable, creating the dummy variable. Okay, how to create dummy variables in Python. So simple example is, for example, we have a column called male, female. See, there are 2 types you need to understand. This is a dummy variable. Label encoding. How many of you are familiar with label encoding? One is label encoding. Another one is one-hot encoding. Label encoding and one-hot. For example, we have a sex column, right? Or gender column. We have gender column. You have something called male, female, and again, some customers are male, and some customers are female, some customers are male, like that, right? So in this column, gender is a categorical variable, because at the maximum only 2 unique values are there, right? You may have hundreds of records, thousands and thousands of records, but when you look at the unique values, male and female, only these 2 are repeated multiple times. The unique values are male and female only 2 values are there. Unique values, this is nothing but the distinct values. The distinct values in gender column, or gender column, right? The gender column, or male, female, right? Female. Fine. So in the we have something called label encoding. So instead of gender column mentioning it as a male or female, you replace male by 1, replace female by 0. Why should I do this one? First of all, why should I replace? Why can't I leave it as it is? Because as I told you, the machine learning algorithm requires all the columns, the independent variables, as numerical variable. Okay, hence what we are doing is smartly we specify the numerical variable in the case of gender, right, in the binary format 0, 1. So 0 means they are female, 1 is male. Got it? This is called your label encoding. So next one is one hot encoding. So what is one hot encoding? What is one hot encoding? Supposing you have something called region column, or in our case we have education, right? You have something called education 1, 2, 3, sorry, your education is something like education as, right? You have something called graduates, and you have something else called postgraduate. Some people are postgraduate, some people are like MPhil holders, right? They are MPhil and PhD, right? So 4 different levels are there, right? I wanted to do some kind of customer profiling. We want to understand which customers are graduate, which all customers postgraduate, based on does education has any influence in terms of repaying the loan, right? We want to do some kind of analysis. So here as I told you, the machine learning algorithm requires all the independent variables should be in the numerical format. We need to do some kind of encoding, right? We need to convert a dummy variable, like this is also a dummy variable, right? So 1 0 1 1 0, and now dummy variable encoding, all these terms are same. Okay, the education column, I cannot put 0 1 here, right? 0 I can use it, but we have more than 2 values are there, right? Hence I cannot use that one. Instead what I should do is right, so in the case of one hot encoding, what you are supposed to do is, right, so create n-1 columns from the column n. Okay, so this column, right, this is my column from the n-1 columns from so here how many classes are there? 4, right? 4 minus 1 3. 3 different columns should be created, right? So in that case what I'm going to do is so grad, I'm going to create 3 different new columns. Okay, 3 new columns based on this column values. Okay, MPhil. 1 second, I'm getting a call. Hello. Fine. So here, let's say this the first record, right? The first customer is a graduate. Put 1 here, and rest of the columns we put 0 here. And you must be asking this one. So we have 4 classes are there or categories are there. Why you created only 3 classes? That is the rule. Okay. The reason is we don't want to have too many columns. We try to reduce as less columns as possible. Right. Okay, now for example, I have another customer. This customer is not a graduate, not a postgraduate, is not a MPhil. That means he is a PhD. So don't say that means he is illiterate. Okay, we don't have illiterate in this. Most of my customers are educated people. Okay, not most of 90, 100. Let us assume that 100% of the customers are educated. So in that case, if I put 3 0, what does it? He is not a graduate, he is not a postgraduate, he is not a MPhil. That means he is a PhD guy. Right? So you don't need a separate column for that. If you put 3 zeros here, that represents, that indirectly, implicitly says this guy is a PhD holder. Similarly, say this customer is a postgraduate. You flag 1 and rest of the column you put 0 here. So ultimately, you have the numerical variables now in your data set. With this you can build your model, right? So the prerequisite to train your model is all your variables are supposed to be numerical, but unfortunately this variable is not a numerical, it's a categorical variable. And again, this categorical variable has more than 2 categories in it. So hence you need to create n-1 column. You need to create n-1 columns for these classes. So we have 4 classes, 4 minus 1, 3, right? 3. But again, it works on a alphabetic manner, especially when you use some predefined packages like dummies, right? It alphabetic. It first, M comes first, G come first, second MPhil, and third one is postgrad and PhD. It will not create PhD, right? So it will create first grad and MPhil, and then postgrad. and then it will ignore PhD. Okay, but some packages still it creates all these categories as a column, blindly. It will create one more column also as a PhD. Right? Some customers, they say, right, no, we want we don't want like this. Put all the categories, create a column for all the categories. Okay, but if you create, let's say you have 20 variables, all the 20 variables are categorical variable, or let's say all the out of 20 variables, 18 columns are categorical variable, right? So 18 column you need to create unnecessary, right? See, and also each column has many categories. See, in this case 4 minus 1 3. Let's say you have 10 categories, right? Take for example in the case zip code, what will happen? 3000 minus 1 2919 column you need to create it, and 18 columns you have it like this. So 18 1 column you need to create it, right? So best things you create this is for dimensionality reduction. We don't want the number of diamonds to be exploded. That is the reason why we want to minimally we create columns like this. Okay, so this is what called as one hot coding. Again, the different techniques are available. Okay, we'll discuss that later. Okay, so these are all the things that we do it. So to summarize, the basic transformation, the data pre-processing, right? Type conversion, and then remove missing values, remove duplicate values, and address outliers. In case of any outliers, you need to do some kind of capping. We'll show you later. Address outliers, and what is the other one? The other one is data. This one, right? Subset the data, and we don't need all the rows, and also exclude the columns, right? Henceforth I'm going to call this a features are nothing but columns. Okay, and then what other things that we did? So we need to do some kind of data imputation. Actually not remove missing values, here imputation, right? Data imputation, we do data imputation. And so the next one is like binning or bucketing, right? So bucketing we did it, and thing is later on we'll be doing data normalization. But before that itself, right? So we will be doing encoding, right? Encoding or create dummy variables, and then what you do is you do data normalization. So this many number of common data pre-processing activities we do it. In order to do that, we need to explore the data, isn't it? We need to query the data, and sometimes you'll have to use box plot to view the outliers, right? How do you find out the outliers in your data? Which visualization tool that you use it to find out the outliers? Box plot, right? So that's how you can tell. And fine. So these are the common thing that we do it. Okay. So next, what I'm going to do, I'm going to jump into this one, the dplyr thing. Let's take the same example, right? Retail marketing data set. Okay, here. So here what I'm going to do is, right, I imported a package called dplyr. Dplyr is also very powerful package, and you don't have to be familiar with the or subsetting syntax and commands. Okay. So what you do is simply, if you are familiar with SQL query, then you can use dplyr package, and you can write a SQL query against your CSV file, comma separated value, for Excel file also, right? We have an Excel file. Can you fire a SQL query on an Excel file? You cannot, right? You will have to use the database. SQL queries are used only on, you can run a SQL query on a RDBMS table. Is it possible to run a SQL query on an Excel file? Yes, it is possible in OR, right? With dplyr you can do it. So this is a comma separate value file. So here also I am performing some kind of type conversion as usual. And what I'm going to check the column wise data type. Fine. And next what I'm going to do is I'm going to use so in dplyr we have something called select command. Okay, select command. Inside the select command you specify the data frame name. What is my data frame name? MKT. What values it has in it? What columns? Customer, age, gender. These are the columns are there in this data frame. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select age, these three columns from this data frame. Then you can directly specify it. And again I don't want to select everything. Top 6 records only I can do it, right? Or you can, but if you simply execute this select alone, it will select all the records for this thing. You can do it this way. And select function, your select function is available, filter function is available. Likewise, various other functions are available. Okay, like filter, select, where classes are available. Okay, you dropped off because of fine. So you have the select function, filter function, group by function, summarize function, arrange function, join function, and you have something else called mutate function is also available. Right? The reason why people are using dplyr is because many of the developers or people, right, they've been using the SQL queries for performing the data analysis for decades, right? So now in the modern data analysis softwares like Python and R, including SAS, right, it supports SQL commands, so you don't have to be familiar with them. That is also the reason why dplyr, and also dplyr is also little bit faster than the traditional way of querying the data, like this one, right? As I showed you in the score, right? If I wanted to select only the specific column and see what value, right? English, those students scored English mark greater than 60. You need to put score 1, square bracket, again score 1, dollar English 1, greater than that one, comma, you need to put it. You don't have to remember all these things, right? One way you are, you are in a better off position since you can use SQL queries traditional. But if you don't want to use a specific column, if you want to exclude a specific column, you can use -c. Inside the -c you can put whichever columns you don't need it, you can exclude it. And supposing you wanted to select the data that are related to Sing, right, whichever right, Singapore or something like that, Sing or something like that, you can use starts with. And filter. Okay, I wanted to filter the salary greater than or equal to 10,000. Where is the salary column? Here I have salary column. Look here, 16,400. More than 10,000 only the values are selected. Filtered, the salary that are less than 10,000 and less than 10,000. Okay, but you need to specify the data frame inside the filter thing. But you can combine, select, filter, join, everything in a single thing like this. Okay, so most of the time when it comes to data analysis, we perform aggregation only, average, minimum, maximum, total number of transactions, right? So here this is the syntax we use it to combine all the things. Or before we understand this, let's try to let me execute this and I'll show you what is happening here. We will take this one now. Yeah. So here also I'm doing some kind of aggregation. So here the syntax is something like this. I combined select, filter, group by, summarize. I combine all instead of running it separately, select separately, filter separately. What I'm going to do is here I'm going to combine all the things like how we write a SQL query, right? Select, filter, this kind of where condition in your SQL command, okay? And market. So this is my data frame name, MKT. Percentage greater than percentage. This is called your pipe. This is called your using the pipe. You are combining more than one function here. Select function, filter function, group by, summarize. All these functions we can commit using the pipe. So what is this pipe does? So using the pipe we can combine more than one functions in your deploy or package. Other thing is the pipe, right? I don't know how many of you are familiar with the Linux command. In Linux we use pipe symbol, right? This is called your pipe symbol. So what is ls minus ltr and grep vol? So vol star. So whatever the files that we stored in our operating system, Linux operating system, which starts with vol, right? Select only those files and also display it in the tree structure. So grep is going to check the files that start with WALM. The ls minus ltr, what it will try to see. In this case we have used pipe in between these two different commands, right? What happens here is you don't have to wait. This command don't have to wait until all the files are selected. Let's say in my operating system I have 1000 files, right? First select 1000 files and then apply this one. No, as and when you fetch the file names, you can send it to me. I'll check, right? So whether these set of files has this set of file names start with WALM or not, right? Simultaneously it is happening, right? As and when you fetch it, same thing is applicable here. Marketing, right? See, in the case of operating system, what happens is, let's say you have marketing data frame, right? Though the data are available in memory, right? It has to read the data like page by page, something like that, okay? You think that way, okay? So what will happen is right, to read the entire data, I don't have to wait. As and when it reads the data, you send it to this one and then it does the filtering, and then what it does is it does the group by, and then it does the summary, okay? That is what is happening here, okay? So everything is kind of parallelly it is happening, okay? So if you look at this output, the amount spent by the customers, those who own the house, less than 30, right? Is 21131, and group by filter age is less than own home, right? So these people are not owning the house, these people are owning the house. 0 is not owning the house, 1 is owning the house, and those who own the house, their amount spent is more than those do not own the house, and average also we are seeing it, right? So the next thing is, this is how you can query it. So you can query if you don't want to perform any aggregation, right? You can simply do group by like this. See, it does the group by. But whenever we use group by, right, we use group by only when we perform summarization most of the time. Summarization, what do you mean by summarization? Sum function, mean function, minimum function, max function, these are all called aggregation function or summarization, data summarization. If you want to do, somebody is telling, right, we did some kind of data summarization, that means they have used either sum, mean, minimum, max, this kind of functions, okay? So this is the syntax, select function, and in the select you can specify the columns that you are going to use it, or you want to list it out, right, from your output. And then own home, but here married is, because we are, whatever the summary thing only it is coming here. Look here, see here, I think due to some space problem, it is not displaying the married also, right? We have something called set function. I don't remember the set function. Let me just no, that's a variable. It will not work. Anyhow, so ideally the market, the married person should also be coming. But again, here, yeah, own.home, we have done a group by on own.home and summarize, right? So this is the one is coming here, okay? And probably if you do some kind of married here, right? Married, group by own home by married. You can get, yeah, you can get that one. It's not that it is hidden, it was hidden. So when you do like this, right, you can see like this. So those married people and do not own the house, these people are unmarried. 0 is unmarried, 1 is married, right? You can do it like this also, okay? Or if you don't want to have this kind of thing, right, it is kind of confusing. So what you are doing is you take a own home. You are going to limit the scope only at this group by only at this own.home, right? So you can see it. But again, you can do it this way also, okay? Married people, those do not have the house. Married people, those own the house. And so those married people do not own the house. Unmarried people do not the whole house, right? So you can do that that much. You can narrow down, right? You can narrow down your analysis like this also. And the next one is the another advantage of this one is the dplyr is you can combine this one with the ggplot. You have a package called ggplot, okay? Using ggplot, you can plot the charts. Yeah, so here, okay, let me first execute this one. So I'm going to say previous customer, okay, cust. Yeah, what do you mean by previous customer? That one is this column will have 0 and 1 only. One means they are my regular customer. One means non-regular customer. They visited once. They visited only one time. One means they visited in the past. Okay, that is what it shows. So again, right. So you can write perform analysis like this. Okay, and ultimately I stored this output in a variable called child1. Look here, less than hyphen. On the right side output, you assign it a variable called child1. Child1 now becomes a data frame now. Instead of displaying it here, store it in a variable called summarize grouped output by. Okay, let me do one thing, data table child1. Look here, we have a package called DT. In the top, I showed you DT package, right? In the DT package, we have some data table is available. So instead of viewing the output like this, you can see it like this, like in the HTML form, right? First one, next one. If you have multiple records, you can just scroll down. And in some cases, what will happen is you can use next. If you have 100 records, next, you can see it. Table kind of view, you can get the output. You can see the output, okay? And also search in the HTML thing that we do, right? There are 3, 6, 4, 1, 8. So only this record, right? It is selecting. You can do search also. how many number of entries you need to display on the single page. Minimum is 10. Since we have less than 10, it is not showing the next button. Okay, so data table also you can use it. This is for view, for viewing purpose you can use it. Apart from this, see now what happened, I stored the queries output into variable called child1. The child1 is holding all this data here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to directly plot this one into a chart. For example, I have something called ggplot. Child1 is my data frame now. Look here. Here my data frame is child1 because child1 is the one holding this aggregated information. Okay. So here I don't have a history, brave customer, right? Continuous values supplied to discrete scale. Yes, the previous customer supposed to be the let me do one thing here. Press escape to come out of this and then click run. Look here. So I use as.factor. Here you are supposed to specify the discrete variable. Okay, you are not supposed to, but though since this value got stored in the format of number, it got confused, hence I converted the as.factor. So as.factor is categorical variable. So now you can see it here, right? In the x-axis I plotted children, and then the y-axis I plotted the total values. What is the total here? Total is nothing but, look here, child1, right? Child1 is nothing but, already I did this one. Total is to amount spent, right? Total amount spent. So here those people have no kid, their spend is more, right? And those people, as the number of kids increases, the spend is less. That is what we can say. So what we can do is we can combine this ggplot also along with this one. That is also the beauty of dplyr. So you can put one more pipe symbol here, percentage greater than percentage, and here what you do is you can, so here you don't have to specify the data frame name, because the output of this data frame, right, gets the output of this one will be passed as an input to this one, right? It will print it. You can store it in a variable also. Look here, right? You can combine the chart along with the aggregated values also. This is how you can combine. That is the advanced. It's pretty easy, right? Select function, filter function, it's all very easier. And one more. So we have something else called mutate. We'll see that one also little later. And look here. So here I did. See, some cases what you can do is you can do directly, right? You can do it like this. You don't want to display any column, anything, right? Simply you can you don't have to specify any columns. Specify the data frame name. Summarize function. That's all. Means average salary, mean, minimum, maximum, total number of records, right? Total number. But when you use group by based on some column, right? You will get to know when you use n function. What is n function? Number of transactions. Okay. if you are doing something like for example, look here, this is the one, right? Let me do one thing. Instead of this, I am going to say children itself. Yeah. So those do not have kids. What is their average salary, minimum amount spent, and all, right? All these data are available here. All these data are available here. So here, those do not have kids. How many number of customers are there? 124 customers. They do not have kids. And 61 n function gives you the total number of records in each group. Right, that is the that's the reason why we use n function. Okay, n function is for that purpose only we will be using it. Fine. So you got a fair amount of idea how to use dplyr. Dplyr is much robust. You don't have to have if you have SQL knowledge, you can use dplyr. Most of them they use dplyr only because of its use, and majority of the people don't know SQL queries than the traditional way of slicing and slicing the data. Another advantage with this one is it is pretty faster. Querying time is much faster, right? The retrieval time is much faster. The data, it reads the data in a much faster manner. Right, so you can combine the data frame, the visualization also, the charts also. Okay, what is ggplot? ggplot is the package that is available as part of your R. Even in Python, ggplot is available. The beauty of ggplot is you can specify 4 components, right? In general, you need to specify 4 components as part of your ggplot. The first argument or the first component is supposed to be a data frame name. Second component is supposed to be your x-axis, y-axis. And in addition to that, we use fill. You remember in Python, cgon, they used hue, right? Using hue, you can do subsetting in the x and y chart itself, right? So as dot, look here, that's the reason why 0, 0, this kind of red color, and this is 1. So these people or do not having kids, and these people are having kid, right? So within children, right, 0, 1, 2, 3, children, previous customer, this is previous customer. 0 means they are not a previous customer, 1 means they are the previous customer, right? Previous customer, if you look at it, those do not have kids, right? The previous customer, they spend is way high compared to the first time customers. But here, as the number of kids increases, the spend is also less, but whereas the new customer spend is less compared to the previous customer. But still, whether the new customer or previous customer, as the number of kids are more, the spend is less, right? We can add one more dimension also using fill. And first component is data frame, second component is aesthetics. In the aesthetics, you need to specify x-axis and y-axis. Also you can specify another dimension, okay, which you can use it to subset this one. And geom tile, so this is nothing but geometric. So here you can specify the type of the chart. You see, for example, if you say geom underscore, that's all. You can get whatever type of chart that you need, you can use it, right? You can find it here. So in the third component, the type of the chart you need to say, right? So here, right, I use the tile one, and next one is scale fill manuals. The colors you can specify the values, red, blue, yellow, and all, right? Since we are using 3 different components, right, 3 different axis dimensions, red, blue, yellow also I mentioned it here. Yellow is not visible, okay, fine, but you can try with different colors also. Why it is, and also you can specify the title also, right? You can specify the title. But here, if you notice, I put plus here. That means you don't have to write an entire thing in a single line to execute it. This up to this one command, you can put it like a plus, and then continue the second the next command here, and again you can put plus, and continue the next command here like this. Okay, you can put it like this. So ggplot in general takes four components, right? Data frame name and the x-axis, y-axis values and type of the chart, and then the scale fill manually you can specify the color thing, and apart from this you can specify the title also, gg title. You can put plus here because this is a function, right? Once the function is over, plus and put this one, and so when the compiler reads this one, oh, plus means okay, continuation of the ggplot is still there. I need to read one more line. It thinks that way, okay? And then it comes here and it prints this one also. So hope you understood how to use ggplot. In R, ggplot is also very popular. It's very easy to remember and very easy to use, and also it has a lot of options or features are available. Okay, so the next one is what we will do is we will deploy R. Now you understood, right? Data.table, what I will do is I will carry forward. It is already right. It's a very data.table is also very robust package compared to deploy R. I told you the traditional way of slicing the data is not that good compared to deploy R. Deploy R is much robust, much faster than the traditional way of slicing the data and subsetting the data or performing aggregations, everything, and ease of use. When it comes to ease of use, deploy R is far better. Okay, and similarly we have some data.table package like deploy R. Data.table is much robust than deploy R package. Data.table was written in C++ language. Okay, hence the speed is much faster. Even if you read gigabytes of data, right, it reads in a matter of seconds. Data.table I will show you as part of machine learning. Okay, data pre-processing. Okay, and data.table also you can do the same aggregation, but the syntax, the only difference is syntax. Okay, if you know the syntax, anyhow I will syntax everything. I will share one cheat sheet. You can use that to do the slicing and dicing using data.table, right? So okay, with this I'm going to wrap up today's session. I covered R as of today. So even R also many commands are available but relevant to our analysis, right? I have covered this much, and when I cover the machine learning part, we will take a deep dive as part of data pre-processing for each use cases. Okay, and each algorithm, right? And also we will see how to use Python and R, right? I'll show you, demonstrate you that time. And the next session is going to be machine learning. What I would suggest, right? So you take some time tomorrow and review everything as requested by few, right? Tomorrow you take some time, so work out on all the assignments whatever I gave it in Python also. The same thing you can try it out in R also, and then tomorrow you review everything whatever I covered so far. Upcoming Saturday we'll start machine learning part, but once I start machine learning part, don't miss out at any cost. Okay, because that is the one is very important. The interview, they will expect you to be very good at the algorithms. Obviously they want to ensure that you are good with Python programming skills and you are good at TensorFlow, everything. Okay, I will cover that one also, but algorithm is very important, because right, the programming part also, right, you can sit and practice it based on the assignments which I gave it and which I will be giving it in the upcoming days, right? So you can practice it and you will learn it, but algorithm, it is very difficult. See some cases, right, I have seen some articles, this mistakenly the logic was, the explanation was interpreted wrongly, right? So that's the reason why what I would suggest, don't miss out any of my upcoming sessions. Machine learning, deep learning, computer vision and NLP also. I am going to cover chatbot also, right? Don't miss out any of the sessions going forward. Okay, because we worked in real time scenario, we pose a lot of issues. Okay, We'll share that one also as part of those sessions. Don't miss out. Right, and also we'll share the quizzes. Right, start solving those quizzes also. I'll share the link to you all from next week and onwards. Okay, because I'm going to cover machine learning and all next week, linear regression. I'll share that quizzes also. Those quizzes are close to 50 to each and every quizzes have close to 50 to 60 questions are there. Okay, if you attend that one also, right, it will help you to understand the concepts and also tricky part. So in case the interview they ask you any tricky questions, even when they ask you to take up any online test, you can crack it. But online test, the analysis